Yeah, well, I mean, it's obvious. Because they can annex funky shapes as long as it's contiguous. If they leave a donut hole and they left off. So, I mean, and it's way different. Like how they did the annexation in the 90s. I mean, it's.
Well, I am.
It's actually still not illegal in Tennessee. It's not. As long as it's contiguous. So, I mean, it's all touching. It's just.
Yeah, I got the same problem. I got the same problem.
Today we're gonna call the highway meeting
No man's land.
order. Before we go any further, if you notice on the agenda, we got the wrong date on it. I got the 5th, so we're gonna change that to the 2nd. That's the first mistake I've ever made. Okay, do a roll call, Gary.
Ms. Collard.
Present.
Ms. Collins.
Here.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
Aldridge.
Here.
Profit.
Go.
Mr. Blevins.
Yes.
Mr. Tester. Here. Mr. Bailey, I'm here. All present.
Did you get my place? We're gonna approve another agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved, Gary Bailey, second by Nancy Brown. All in favor, say aye. Improvement of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Gary Bailey,
Second.
second by Nancy Brown. All in favor, say aye. Okay, we're going down to public comments. Anybody here from the public wish to speak? Come on up.
You may come to the podium if you
Come to
want.
the podium. Put your name and your address.
I wish I could have it.
Make it official.
I'm sugar free.
State your name and your address, ma'am.
My name is Julie Huntsberger, and I am at 188 Old Milligan Highway. And I thank you so much for a few moments of your time. First of all, let me say we greatly appreciate the work you did last summer on Old Milligan Highway. But it really brought to light the fact that the worst part of the road that didn't get paved became nobody's. In other words, once you had finished your work, then I was like, okay, well, why didn't that get paved? And I started calling, and I called the county and talked to, well, didn't call, sorry, communicated with via email with Roger Colball, and basically was told, no, that's not the county's. And I said, okay, well, I'll contact the city. So I contacted the city in the same manner and communicated with Danny Hilbert there. And he said the same thing, though. He said, no, that's not the city's. This is just it's about a quarter of a mile, a stretch of road, and it's from where you enter Old Milligan Highway off of Milligan Highway, and you go up to where Emmanuel's seminary is, and it just is in need of attention. So I just started from there and went on. I contacted both mayors and really didn't get much response from there. And so then I started with the highway committees in the city and the county. And thank goodness for Ms. Holdren, because she represents our area, but she has really risen to the occasion and tried to investigate and find out, where did the ball get dropped? So do you want me to talk about that, or do you want to talk about that?
You say whatever you want to say, and then our highway superintendent and whoever else will talk later.
Okay. Basically, at this point, what we discovered is that when the Emmanuel School was annexed into the city, the road itself did not get annexed. So that leaves it sort of in limbo. And I guess what we are trying, myself, the neighbors, et cetera, what we're trying to resolve is who will claim it. and then, of course, put it on the needs some attention list. So I'll leave it at that, and unless there are any questions.
Do you know who owned the road before the annexation? Was it private or
Not private, but
who owned it before?
But
Yes, go ahead, Roger.
I think I can help on this because I was raised in that community. Whenever they redid the Milligan Highway, I'm talking about the state of Tennessee, they redid the Milligan Highway. They redid the road up through there up to about where the Paynes live in the curve. The state bought the right of way, built that new piece of road. Now, we're probably talking about in the 70s, okay? I can't recall, but I remember. It was on state right of way. They built the right of way. They built the road up there, and the state won't maintain it. So it's on state right of way, and I don't know where we go from here, but that's just what I know about it.
You're talking about where you cut off from Milligan Highway and go up to where
Man, you
Steve
know,
Payne lived, right there?
yes, right there where Steve Payne lived, yes, right there. It's on.
They didn't do it back to us, Roger? Like they usually do, like they did Gap Creek?
It's public right of way. It won't matter if it's owned by the state or the city or the county. You could be adopted for either one. Right.
But what I'm asking is, okay, so we could adopt it, make it a county road. So is it a state road right now? Is that what we're?
The state just did, I've got the same situation my mother and daddy's, same thing. Same exact thing.
Do we push it for snow?
Hey, let's let the rest of the public speak and then we'll get in discussion.
Okay, I was just gonna say, did any of the rest of you that came for this reason want to speak? Do you want to tell why it's of concern, or Ms. Bishop, would you like to do that?
I can just stand up and say, I've lived there all my life. The Victorian, the Payne house is where my grandparents lived. And the road used to go straight down. And then, like you said, Mr. Co-op, was changed. But it is the concern about, it's been about 25 years ago, a Milligan student was killed instantly there. You might remember that.
Investigated that, right?
Coming around that curve, and what happened, someone T-boned him, and he fell in that ditch. You know, his car went in that ditch, and then he was T-boned, he was killed. But we as neighbors, our concern is every day you have students from Milligan College that are going up and around that curve to the occupational therapy program and the PA program. It's in the bottom of the seminary. And there have been fender benders there, and people, when they come up from the highway, they really don't know what to do. And at one point, the car went down into the, when you come on up the curve a little, the car went down into the property where my cousin, they live in the grandparents' home, and it damaged some property there, part of the barn. And the road was, I think we had talked about that. It just went down and landed on its side. And another thing of great concern is when it's icy and snow, it is really a hazard. So basically it's a matter of, especially you think of these young people from Milligan up and down that road. And again, you all did a marvelous job paving. We're grateful for the paving work that was done. Mr. Cobalt, for the, that you all did. But again, the concern is for people to easily lose a life there. It's already happened. So we're grateful for anything that can be done.
May I ask? Is your main concern the roadway surface itself or the speeding part of vehicles?
Let's let Steve address that.
the main concern is the paving. And matter of fact, I don't know, it was last year, or the year before, somebody patched some potholes. I have no idea whether that was county or city. And there are several potholes, and right on the curve, it's like a washboard. Some of those dips are 3-4 inches deep. And when you're coming around that curve, if you hit them, at the right angle, your car will actually bounce a little bit. And of course, there's no center lines anymore and off. So more the concern is just the condition of the road. And I didn't measure it, but just eyeballing it, there's probably 150 feet. If one section just around the curve was taken care of, that would eliminate most of the problems with a center line being painted.
Well, I haven't been up there in quite some time, but the accident you were discussing, the fatality, I investigated that accident. The Milligan guy, the car flipped over actually, and then, you take it from there, he didn't have a seatbelt on. But I don't know, I don't know anything about the roadway now as far as what you guys are talking about, and as far as the width. Now, the speed, I don't see, the only thing good about that is maybe have a patrol occasionally or something like that. Or maybe signs up indicating the curves, going towards the main highway there.
Let's let the rest of the public speak, and then we'll discuss the rest of it. Anybody else want to speak?
So anyhow, the safety of the condition of the roads, the main thing.
Excuse me, one thing I might interject. When I was growing up, the road, Mr. Cole probably knows, the road used to go straight down to the highway. You know what I'm talking about. But at that time, my parents worked, and my aunt and uncle, who lived in our grandparents' home, they worked with the county. I just remember that. They worked with the county because the state, there were so many accidents because you couldn't see to the left when you pulled out. It was a hazard. So the state came in, I recall this now, and worked with the county and took the road the other way so that you would have easier. Do you see, Mr. Cobalt, do you remember what I'm talking about?
No, I don't remember going straight down.
But what happened, they took it to the right as opposed to, because the way the property set up, some property was given from our grandparents' home there. But they did take it that way to avoid people, having to risk pulling over to the left. So either way, this road has become a safety hazard one way or the other, but I did want to interject that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, anybody got any questions? Discuss other.
Are they wanting us to pave it, put up signs, or?
Hey,
It's still up there as to who owns it, but
they want us to adopt it as a road.
Well, can I ask you, Mr. Chairman, if we don't own it, how do we adopt? I mean, if the state owns it, are we gonna have to ask them first if we can? You see what I'm asking? I mean, if we don't own it and the state still owns it, are we gonna have to ask the state first, or?
In my opinion, it's a public right of way. It's a public street within the county that is not a county road. We have many of those. What's a county road is listed on the county road list, the lengths of the roads and all the roads. And if it's not on that road, within the length on that's listed for that road, then it's not been adopted as an official county road, and the road superintendent can't work on it. So if you want to work on it, it's got to either become a county road, or you have to get permission from another governmental entity to work on their property. It's clear it's not within the city. To me, it's not a city street. So it's either a public road within the county that's not a county road, or it's some abandoned state right of way from years ago that they're never gonna touch again. And that's basically what it is.
Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Mr. Cobalt, how much money are we talking about to fix this? Do you have any idea right off the top
What
of
we
your?
didn't pave is 2/10 of a mile, and the material will cost about $20,000. That's not counting labor, hauling, material, nothing else, but it's about $20,000 to pave it. It'd have to be milled some because of the ruts that the gentleman talked about. Do it and stuff, we'd have to do some river paving, whatever, we'd have to take care of the ruts, because if we didn't, it would reflect back into the new pavement. The lane coming down toward the Milligan Road is in very bad shape. It's worse than the one going up. Maybe because they come around the curve fast and start breaking, might be some of the reason, I don't know, but like, it's not been a county road. Shannon's worked 29 years here, and worked on the pavement. You've got 411 D mix on it, which is a state mix that's got pea gravels in it. If you look at it, it's brown looking. So that section was paved by the state, I'm assuming, and when they did the construction, it's not been paved since.
Go ahead, Mr. Custer.
I mean, it's clearly on this map that we have, I'm not disputing what Mr. Caldwell said at all. Because I understand what's happened here. That little section is no longer a county road. But it's not annexed in the city. The city has not annexed that road. So how do we fix it to where that Roger can legally work on that?
It would have to be adopted as, that section would have to be adopted and added to the length of the current county road known as Old Milligan Highway. It would have to become a county road.
Let's go.
Or you'd have to have permission.
Roger says that he wants it. The
The
county
reason the
road.
city didn't annex that road is because it's belonged by the state, and there's no tax money. Right? They could not get 1 penny tax money off of it. So they did not want it to be a city street, that they'd have to maintain it.
That's true.
And when they annexed it, both sides of it. It's in the city limits, I think, because they annexed both sides of the road on each side of it. The reason they didn't annex it, now they're saying it's not in the city because they couldn't get tax off it. It belongs to the state of Tennessee. Right away does. That's the plain fact.
State of Tennessee should fix it.
What, if it's in the county, is it in the county, Josh, or is it in the city?
It's in the county.
In the county, okay.
Mr. Chairman, what would be the odds of you getting hold of the state and asking them what they would like to do with that?
The state will not pay it. I've been with the state long enough when they do construction projects, they maintain they get done, they maintain the main road and then maintain it over to the stop sign of the county roads and the city streets coming into it. And the city and the county has to maintain the rest of it, or a private property owner has to maintain the driveway and stuff off the street.
It's not a state highway. It's not a state highway.
No, it's not state highway at all. The state just did it for a tie-in, to make a better tie-in coming in. That's what's happening.
If we make it a county road, can you fix it?
I can, but are we going to give in to the city to do that? Just because they didn't annex a state right away?
I understand, but on the other hand, you got people which,
Bad road, I've been over there looking at it, it's terrible. City ain't gonna fix it.
I know that and you know
There's,
that.
it's not their luck that fault does. I entertain any kind of motion you wanna put out.
And how long is it, Roger?
What we did pave is 2/10.
Okay.
And that'll fix it.
We,
With enough work to do it, they just has to be cleaned. Like I say, we have to mill some of the roadway down. Yeah, just like we fix other county roads, we can fix it.
Roger, if we adopt this road tonight, would you accept it?
He has to.
Huh?
He has to. If it
We
passes.
don't have
You
to.
don't have to. Elected, you don't have to.
County road.
Any of them out.
He says no, he don't have to accept it.
How can you say no if it passes the committee and passes full commission?
Get Mr. Hart and tell
I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
That's the thing we trained.
And I don't, the bottom line is the county commission is the only authority that can adopt a county road. The road superintendent can make recommendations, and generally speaking, the county commission would follow the recommendation if there's a good reason for it. But the only authority that can adopt a county road in the county is the county commission.
Well, I mean, it's got to go to county commission, no matter what we vote.
Right, it starts here.
What's your recommendation for it, Mr. Cobalt?
you put them in a big middle.
Well, I mean,
You want the county highway department to correct the situation that the city caused.
no, I really don't, but I mean, if it's a dangerous road.
That's what
State caused it.
you're all asking me to do.
They didn't turn it over to us.
The highway department,
Well, actually, the state is the one who created it.
I knew he's in.
I disagree. I think it's the city completely, because they could annex that when they built the road. I'm sure the road come first.
Oh, I agree with you that there was no value in annexing it, but I don't agree, they didn't have to. I mean, as long as it's contiguous to the current city limits, they can make whatever shape and zigzag however they want to, as long as they don't leave a donut hole.
You didn't say this, or you're gonna take around and give the city $1.5 million for a ladder truck?
Well, we all know that the city went down Milligan Highway and just took what was beneficial to them, so we gotta live with that.
That's true.
That's the way they do it. I mean, that's how annexation works. I mean, they want to annex valuable things, not liabilities.
I mean,
Is there liability if someone gets killed on it again in county property?
See, I'll put it this way, I will do what you say. I ain't gonna say yea or nay, I'm gonna let you do, Chairman, what you're gonna do, what we would accept. Here's what you will not comment on it, on where we should or not. We'll let you decide whatever you decide, and the full commission, that's what we'll do.
Mr. Chairman,
Get these people out,
Who owns it?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt that section as a county road. Caveat that we add $25,000 out of the general fund to give Mr. Callbox department to fix it.
I second.
Motion,
make it the mileage on it, 0.2 miles.
0.2 miles.
Have a mileage on it.
I got a motion by Mr. Tester and a second by Jerry Prophet. Any discussion?
I have a question. Who are we adopting it from? Who owns the piece of property?
The state.
Tennessee owns the property.
Hey,
do we need to get a hold of them?
We need to contact the state and see if we can.
No, it's public right of way.
no, it's a public right.
Yeah, I will do further title research on the property, but my feeling is what they're saying is true. The state had a right of way when they redid the road, and they have washed their hands of it. It's a public right of way that's abandoned. So there's, the city certainly will be happy and will not oppose anything that you do to the road. But I will research the title further to see if I can find if it was a formal deed. It was probably like a road construction easement that expired when they got down the road.
Would you accept an amendment to that? If he's gonna research and let's do this, that this one more month ain't gonna make that big of a difference. I'd like to know some clearance back and forth and let him look at this to see if we can do this. I mean, that's not gonna pick this off that much.
I'll have it before this full.
What's the
You'll
amendment?
have it before the full commission.
Search it.
See who's,
You'll
Just
have
for the
it,
search, okay.
if we can be legally doing it.
you'll have it before the full commission, so I think we need to move forward with it.
Yep, that's good.
Chairman Blevins, may I also ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't realize until Julie spoke tonight that she had reached out to both mayors. I reached out to the city mayor approximately 1 week ago and asked him to please look into the matter. So I want to hear from our attorney and our superintendent if anyone from the city contacted you in the past 7 days.
I spoke with Danny Hilbert, the road supervisor in the city. I did. He had contacted me, but I mean, I contacted him.
And
They're saying it's not theirs and there's no way they'll touch it.
Got a motion and a second on the floor. Go ahead, Nate.
I'd just like to say, you know, I don't like doing this no better than anybody else does, but when it comes to people's lives in danger, something has to be done. But I'm tired of cleaning up after the city. I'm sick of it. It's time we stand our ground with the city.
Sure.
Okay, any more discussion? Call for the vote, Gary.
Ms. Kohler,
Yes.
Ms. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Holdren,
yes,
Mr. Prophet,
Yes.
Mr. Blevins,
Yes.
Mr. Tester. Yes. And I'm a yes too.
Motion passes. We'll take this to the full commission this month. Ms. Holder will get in touch with you to let you know what the full commission says. And she'll keep you updated here. Got any questions for me? Got my number. I'll be glad to give it to you before you leave here. She come and got all over me, so, you know. I don't like a woman, though.
Well, thank you for your consideration.
Yes,
Very appreciative.
I would like to say something with the concern of this. I understand Roger's point that basically if the city annexed it here and there, I don't like the fact that, you know, we are having to pave it and they annex both sides. I see that side, but I do want Mr. Cobalt to realize it ain't that we're against. It's the fact that those people need some attention. So it's nothing against anything. It's just the fact that right or wrong, this committee's to get stuff fixed and done, so.
Okay.
if I may, I just want to say thank you to the attorney, the superintendent, and all the committee members for listening, looking into this, talking to me. I really, really appreciate your time and consideration. And Roger, we highly respect and regard you, and I'm just very thankful that even though it's probably not what's right for you, I feel like it's.
For the Carter County Highway Department.
Roger,
Yes.
I want to thank you for working with us too. You know, we discussed it, and I really want to thank you for working with us. Okay, we'll move on. I didn't put the road list that Roger, we got to adopt it. Roger, okay, I forgot to put it on there, so I'll entertain a motion to adopt this road list. You got something?
Well, I've got a list of the
New
roads.
Oh, okay.
I've got one list of that right there, but you want to take care of it.
It'll be on your desk at your commission meeting. The road list, all will be on your desk. Full commission. Thank you. This is the only road we've adopted this year then, is it, Roger?
Pardon?
This the only road we adopted this year?
Yes. Well, it's 2021 and 22.
Yeah. Anybody got any questions on this? I'll have you in the full packet, the road list on, be in your package. At the commission meeting. I'll entertain it. We said this is full commission.
I'll make a motion to send it out.
Motion by Nancy Brown to send it into the full commission for consideration. For a second. Second by Jerry Prophet. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Yes, we don't have no old business that I can think of, did we, Roger? We didn't have no old business or nothing.
Oh, but no, I don't. Ain't hard to hear.
I'll tell you, Mark, from last commission meeting, so far, we've got the Lynn Avenue, deeded to that property owner, that's already done. And the Southgate extension, we've already got the deed ready, just waiting on the folks to sign, the survey's done. Morgan Lane, was exclusively granted to the Forest Service. And so we have to work with them to be able to maintain that road. And we've already been in contact with the Forest Service engineer, so that's in progress too.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Okay, so, and now no old business, or they were in the new business, so we'll move on down to superintendent's report.
We've been doing some pavement, it's on this list.
Way back forward.
When you gonna pave Gap Creek Road? It's all pieces.
Yeah, what I want to pave is the whole branch.
My driveway's got potholes.
If we've got enough money to pave.
My driveway's got potholes.
We'll fix that up. It's a better one.
Yes. I don't have a paved out there.
Look over the list and we'll answer any questions you have. One thing I already mentioned is the Blevins Holler Bridge that you know was closed down by the state, and we built a runaround, and we opened bids last week on it. And the state approved it last week. They approved the contract and everything. We're on Summerville right now. And traffic construction started as soon as possible. And it went for 1.8 million. 100% state money.
100% state funded, well, that's good.
Where's that at?
Engineering right away and everything else around 2.2 million, but the contract was 1.8.
I've got a paste, Morgan Chapel, Duncan Chapel, or double churches together.
Double churches.
Yeah, just try to paste it on the right going up.
Any questions about anything?
How's the flood damage roads and stuff coming up, Roger, you got them on here. Peter Holler.
Okay, finally, we've about got all that straightened out, but all need to be paved. We was thinking about paving it, but the first utility called us and told us that they was going to put a water line up Liberty Holler, at least half of Liberty Holler.
Yeah.
And we're hoping, I asked them when, and they didn't know for sure, but maybe this year and stuff. We really need to pave it, but there's no use to pave it if they're gonna tear it up. We have to wait till they get done.
Yeah. But useless to pave it now. And just tear it back up if you.
Yeah, they're gonna cross it a few times and then they're gonna be right at the edge of it and stuff. And we went through and patched all our damaged places anyway, and the pipes we put in and stuff. And it's a little rough, but we don't need to pave it till the utility company gets done. First utility.
Has anybody got any more? Go ahead, Ms. Cullen.
Well, I want to go back and ask the question. I made that comment about Gap Creek, but last year you were telling us that you had money to pave roads and that you wanted us to let you know what roads need to be paved. And what happened with that project?
We only got $2.5 million, and they must have paid it almost $250,000. I'm sorry, $250,000, and that That paved Toll Branch, which, if you've been in Toll Branch, you know how bad it is. The surface on Gap Creek is bad, but, it's not as bad as Toll Branch, the way we've got, we'll have to replace one pipe. We've got shoulder work we've got to do, stabilize it, and some ditch work and stuff we went through, last week and mowed it back with the long arm mowers and stuff, and then got it ready to work. We can start working on it. Hopefully, we may be rain stuff. We might be working on it this week and next week.
Did you just not get the money you thought to do the different projects that you had asked us about?
Pardon?
Did you not get enough money that you thought you were going to get more money? Because I remember you were like, well, just let me know what roads are going to get priority.
That was last year, but we did it out of last year's money. We had to get it done by June of last year, and we've got a long list that we paid that a lot of potholes we've got, and I've got the list on my desk of where we paid. Of course, we've been turning it in every month too as a report. But we, like I say, Gap Creek is, the state only put 3/8 of an inch.
I know what the problem is. Problem now is it's wore down so much that you're seeing the old yellow line, so you don't know if it's the new yellow line or the old yellow line. And they're not in the same position.
It does have most of the.
Shannon, you see that?
Hopefully, most of the reflected marker is still in. I hope they did mill down and put reflected marker that you can snowplow. Most of them's in. I'm sure that helps at night. But Gap Creek's a pretty long road, and I've talked to Randall Butler with the state, who's over state paving and just everything. The reason I talked to him because of the shape that Gap Creek was in, and he advised me if I was going to pave it, to take a grader and grade all that stuff off, get it down, because if you pave over top of it, it's going right up because of how it's coming up now. We have to mill it off, whatever. But yeah, we've chosen other roads because of the potholes and the cracks and all that stuff. Instead of doing that, it needs completely milling or grading or whatever, and then paving back.
About 4 miles worth, that's all you covered. Thank you.
Any more questions for Roger? We hear commissioner's comments.
I did notice today, I seen signs on Bob Little that says trucks go the other direction. That looks good.
We put them up, and I think we put up about 4 of them actually. The last time I looked, the state has not put up theirs over on Murray Patton. I don't know when they will. I don't reckon it's up. I'll check last week.
Why don't you give everybody here that phone number? We'll just all start calling them.
All right. 282.
They won't let you do it. They have to wait for the state to do it. The state's not going to do
I
it.
called and I went over and talked to them. Pick up some materials. Some every now and then they give us some materials and stuff. So it's Highway Marketing in Johnson City that works for TDOT that does that. But he's a friend of mine, and I go over and get materials and stuff. So I try to stay away from getting too forceful, because we can get free stuff there every now and then, and we don't.
They're not getting stopped coming off the state highway onto Gap Creek. They get down there to the Bob Little, and there's all those signs, but there's nothing to tell them not to come down through there.
You remember, he told me he had the sign made, he just didn't.
I remember you told me that.
I asked him to put them up, or I put mine up, and he said, don't you put nothing out on that state highway, you're not allowed to. Very plain.
Maybe you should put yours up just as they turn in. Maybe they'll see it before they turn in. You're going to switch those other 2 signs around we talked about?
Since we put those last signs up, I have not heard a problem too much of you.
Well, they're still going up through there.
The going down to Ruby Avenue.
Right.
That one before we put the signs up, that truck went through there, inch down and everything, since then, I don't know if any, since we got all that up there.
I was just thinking, if you take that one there that's on Earl Avenue and take it down to Bob Little Road, and they'll see it before they turn up, and they go back up on 19E. I don't know that we need that on Earl Avenue, that big yellow sign. If you switch out the little white sign down at the Bob Little Road, that yellow sign, I think it would help. They wouldn't turn it Bob Little. Because once they get on it, they're not gonna get on.
We got a pretty good size little creek and
No, I know.
You can't miss the one.
So we can stop them before they get on, just like if if they'd ever get around to putting them up on Mary Patton, it'd save the whole thing. But I know you asked them about it, so.
Any more questions? Or comments?
The only other thing is I'm gonna let y'all know that the nurses at the pond told me they've all agreed, so I guess they're waiting on you and him.
I was gonna ask you about that because
They
we have, the commission put $3,000 from one item to another into our survey. So we've got, I need our survey. They've all agreed.
Last week, they sent me out the mailbox, and he said him and her both, she wants it fixed, so. Whether there or him or signature or whatever.
Surveyor get a PO and I don't a couple surveys on the vendor for the county.
But I think first thing is we gotta get them to sign with him, correct?
No, surveys first.
Get a survey first. We have to take them up there and show what we want, maybe so they'll do it, do some elevation stuff too. And, yeah, it's in this budget, so we want our survey. Before PO comes out, I think it said about May the 15th, didn't it? It said this one gender.
May the
The
15th.
deadline for POs was about.
Yes, that is what they said this morning. Yes.
So I need to get a surveyor on that, and a few other things I need. POs.
So Roger, did you say it's a bad idea for us to call about the state highway signs? Will it hurt your relationship with them?
You call over and ask for it, politely, of course, and, I have
Okay, what was the number again? 282 something?
282-0651, if you want to talk to highway marketing. That gets you to the switchboard, just tell me you want to talk to highway marketing. Or, Brian Ramsey.
Okay, thank you.
On Mary Patton, right, that's what we're talking about.
Signs on Murray Patton at the Gap Creek interchange for no trucks.
Any more comments? I entertain a
Motion to adjourn.
John for sign the colors, second, was very proud. Has the school got anything tonight?
No.
Sure, let's take
Let's take about 5 to 10 minute break, then we'll let you get going.
Let me ask Okay, could that be good? Could that be stipulated in the contract that the owner would
Private property.
Get out of my face. You can't pay that. I wish we could.
I know we didn't annex nothing.
Start now.
Call this one to order. And if I can, I would like to use the roll call from the highway. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, likewise. I need a approval of the agenda.
Motion approved agenda.
Motion by Mr. Blevins, second by Nancy. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, likewise. Acceptance and approval of April minutes.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Prophet, second by Mr. Blevins. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, likewise. Public comment, anybody here for landfill? Okay, not seeing any. All right, then any new business, so under old business, does anybody have anything for new business though? All right, not seeing none, we'll go to old business. Ms. Rhea, you're up.
Thank you guys for having me again to talk to you about the landfill, and the story of the landfill continues. I've been up here since the 2000s, off and on, talking about the program. Worked with Ed Buckles before Benny, and this program's come a long way. It's doing heads and tails over what it was doing back there in 2000, and I commend Benny for the work he's done. From our phone conversation, I think what I understand is that you all would like to consider some options for either improving the landfill or improving the transfer station, or both. Now, I'm assuming that means there's some funding that's come, from the heavens or wherever, that's going to help out here. Because the first sheet on this handout, I just wanted to talk through it. Basically, which I think I've handed this out before, but basically Carter County has, in the past funded from the tipping fee. So you guys have been a pay-as-you-throw county. And just to illustrate that that's kind of not where most of the counties are. I'm not making a judgment on anything like that, but just saying that sometimes capital improvements are really tough if you have a pay-as-you-throw system. It's just hard to come up with dollars to do big capital programs. So, okay, now enter 2020 and 21 and money for counties to do one-time things. So maybe this is the window for that. And I think I hope that you all can take advantage of that, because I think it would be a really good once in a 20-year window, or whoever knows how much that you can make these changes. So there's 2 or 3 different ways to look at what you would do and why you would do it. Now, I know we've talked about a cell expansion for that Class 3 landfill. So that is something that just is going to take some time. So we want to get you all, going if that's really what you want to do. And to consider that it's probably somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000 an acre to do those cell expansions. So if you've got a 5-acre landfill you're wanting to do another cell or vertical or lateral expansion, you're looking at $1 million, $1.5 million probably to do that. That's still cheaper than a Class 1 landfill that holds municipal waste, of course, but that's a big ticket item. It's going to take, the time frame on that is 3 to 5 years. So part of that's the permitting process, the bidding process, the weather. Talk about the weather, same sorts of things to slow everything down. But you need to give yourself that much time to get that project underway if that's the way you're going. And then if you just skip onto the page that says permitting, I've kind of gone through what the steps are for the application. I'm not going to go over what the words are here, but just to sort of emphasize that the permitting steps are lengthy, and you cannot start doing any construction until you have a permit. It's the state will really come down on you guys for that. So you have to get this all going at the right time before you can do it. So So part one application is not that hard. That's just where you're going to go, some rudimentary surveying, paying your fees. The part two part is actually the harder part, where you have to do soil testing and hydrogeology testing, a whole lot more in-depth work, even if it is a lateral or vertical expansion. So now if you're going off-site and building somewhere else, now that's even a little more lengthy, of course, but the way the state looks at it, this would be a major modification to the existing landfill. So expect that same time frame, even if it's an expansion of the existing landfill. Any questions so far?
We was thinking about, as the committee, I guess, was thinking about purchasing land adjacent to the landfill. So is that gonna be considered an off-site or?
It will depend on how it was originally permitted. If the acres, the landfill proper is in that boundary, it could be considered a lateral expansion instead of a new landfill construction. Now, you're still looking at the same time frame probably, but that's probably way easier than going down the street.
But this is ballpark, as far as determining the cost to construct or start a new landfill, would the size of this landfill be based on the population of the county?
Well, it's never enough, is my example. We always tend to undershoot that. So you have the acres, I think, as I understand the landfill footprint, that, you might be able to get a class 3 cell adjacent to the current one that would be a 20-year life cycle, and then another 20-year, started maybe mid-cycle and something like that. But you can do a calculation based on population.
Well, another question, you said the expansion fee or whatever would be roughly 80,000 to 100,000 per acre. Would that same amount apply to a new landfill, the new acreage,
That's ballpark. So we're actually at 80,000 in today's dollars. I was probably closer to just round up to 100,000 an acre. You're not going to save a lot of construction dollars because it's close by. What you'll save on is the permitting fees. Your engineers will have less work to do because there should be survey already done on the landfill. The state knows the site. So your engineering costs will probably come down a little bit because it's not a new class 3 landfill.
That's the expansion you're talking about.
Yes.
But with a brand new landfill, your same procedures apply to that basically.
You're correct.
So we got 50 acres, that's 1,000 or 100,000, 100,000 per acre.
No, $80,000 per acre.
Well, oh wow, that's a big sale. Okay.
So
I'm just curious on that.
So
You would also have engineering costs,
Yeah.
engineering costs too, with a brand new landfill.
correct.
That would be more.
Engineering costs would be more on a new location than they would be if you chose these existing parcels that you're working with.
My question on that, okay, let's say there's 50 acres, but what if you bought a 50-acre tract, but you can only use 20 of it? I mean, just because you buy 50 acres don't mean you're gonna get to use all.
That's fine in 50 acres.
You're correct. We're talking about the actual footprint of the permitted landfill, not the buffering land around it. So you don't have a 50-acre landfill in play ever. I mean, the typical size of one's going to be, a county this size would be 3 to 5 acre landfill in construction and in operation, and then a working phase of even less than that. So 80,000 an acre is a construction price, not a purchasing land construction price on that. So permitting and design 150. So I was thinking maybe, somewhere, I would say, given where we are with inflation, you really ought to say $2 million to do a cell construction. Now, you can call someone to talk to, might be Cobb County. They just went through this same process. It took them every bit of 3 years, even though they're in the same landfill operation space as they were before. They didn't have to move scales. They didn't have to weigh station or anything. It just took that long to do that. And so I guess what one thing before constructing one, it might be really important that we look a little more at the budget and make sure we know what it costs to operate the class 3, and if we can kind of squeeze that out apart from what it costs to operate the transfer station and operate the convenience centers. We probably can do that with your budget. It's pretty straightforward, but you might want to really, sending it to where you guys go. You go to Farmers Glen or
EcoSafe.
EcoSafe. You gotta trade it off between what would it cost to just, pack it and haul it, when you make those estimations too, just to make sure that it's still a revenue enhancement for the county rather than a liability. So those are the questions we always have to ask on those break-even questions on new landfill constructions. Certainly the big ones don't make sense for little counties, but the C&D ones often do make sense. Now the downside is if you close it, you have to pay the post-closure fee, which is high. Now a lot of folks sort of, one way to maneuver through that is to say, we need to keep it open because it's when we have tornadoes and disasters, we have a place to take this material. So the closure fees I have in here for that landfill maybe don't come into play on the front end. So just as the other part of this process, the other scenario might be, what if you just had a transfer station that operated really efficiently and did everything it needed to do for the county? Maybe that's the starting point, get that in operation, and at the same time start thinking about the class 3 landfill and how to extend the life. So if it were me, I would probably put that transfer station ahead of the class 3, so that you can process the material better, faster, more efficiently, maybe get some more commercial businesses in there as a result of that. And those, of course, cost less. They're cheaper to permit, shorter turnaround time on transfer stations. So just as a thought, we're looking at that page that says scenario planning. What if the county no longer has a class 3? The second line on there, the very last number, 172,847. That's what you would have to pay to dispose of your class 3 waste in 2016. Obviously, it's gone up since then, but that's your number. You kind of have to keep in your head. You start to build another class 3. Okay, we've lost. That we're adding to our disposal cost, 100 or 200 grand, but then, does it cost 200 grand a year to operate the landfill, So those are the things we really want to evaluate before you go too far down that road. You've got a cost avoidance, obviously, by putting it in your own landfill, but at the same time, if your operation costs are high on that and your construction costs are going to be high on it, you might not end up breaking even on the front end with the class 3. The very back page has I'm jumping around to here. The very back page has a cost for a transfer station construction from 2014 at $1 million for a transfer station. So I would probably almost say that that's low, except that's a much bigger transfer station than what you guys would need. I think the rule of thumb on the size of a transfer station is you kind of start with 4,000 square feet, and then you add 20 square feet for every ton of waste you take a day. So if that's the case, you guys could get away with I did this math and I lost it. Put it back up some piece of paper. The 4,500 to 5,000 square foot transfer station might serve Carter County for the next 20 years. So if you bump it up to 6,000 square foot transfer station, that still might be like $1.5 billion, because that's smaller than this one that I've got this sample estimate here.
I have a scary thought.
Uh-oh.
We get all this stuff completed, we're going like a charm, and our stuff goes to Johnson City, is that right? No. Where do we get it? Goes to Bluntville. Okay, say Bluntville gets filled up and they close.
Well, I think you're always going to be at the mercy of big landfills, right? If you're in Middle Tennessee, you really are right now, because that big one's going to close and there's 20 counties chomping at the bit right now for what they're going to do. That's a new landfill though. I mean, they put a lot of money down to get it going. And I wouldn't anticipate a closure on that one in the short haul.
It's something to think about.
It is. I mean, in Upper East, what is the landfill map, for the state? And what are the other demolition landfill options in the area? So I wouldn't dispute any of that. And I guess what I would do is consider the integrated solid waste management strategy, which is you have facilities for everything your community needs. So the bare bones necessity would be the transfer station and the collection locations throughout the county. And then the secondary would be the demolition landfill and access to a good municipal landfill at a reasonable cost. So that's ideal, and we're all trying to future-proof in a weird time, right now for a lot of things. One approach that might be helpful to keep all of those things in play would be, let's go ahead and do an RFQ and find a really sensible engineer to work with on this that can start to give you all some real numbers, that are, related to the construction of a transfer station and the construction of an eventual cell too. So, that would be the first step. And we've never been able to take it in Carter County because there's never been the, will to put the money out to do those things. So if we're at that step where let's find someone that you all can have a good relationship with, who will assist in the planning of both of those things and give you some harder numbers, because it will take a lot of engineering work to get this class 3 stuff nailed. I mean, I can give you these rule of thumb things, but until somebody gets out here and starts, doing the hydro work, it's not something you can pencil in and hope for it to stay the same. The transfer station the grade's not quite right for that. I know you guys are running your own trucks. I think you could see tremendous cost savings on making that an efficient transfer station. I know it doesn't probably, the public maybe doesn't see it. They come through the scales and it's not maybe as fancy as a nice convenience center would be or something, but you would get a lot of bang for your buck on a good transfer station. You would. And then you could have, even if it's big enough, you could have, more option to sort on site. Some of this stuff doesn't need to go to the landfill. It can get separated out and go in this trailer and go here and here. So you have a more methodical way of handling your waste if you have a good system like that. So the numbers, I don't mean to scare you with the numbers, because these days we're all throwing around like $1 million, $1.5 million, $5 million, like it's. But the way a lot of communities are doing it, you kind of have to back it into your tipping fee at some point too, to cover it. And then you have to get the money on the front end, right? So when you set a tipping fee, I think we could probably end up with, a transfer station that wouldn't require a huge tipping fee increase. If you got the money on the front end, and you could get some of that back to a reasonable rate that doesn't change that much from what it is. So you go to a class 3 construction, you're going to probably have to raise the tipping fee to cover that, unless you have more money than I'm thinking you might. So tell me I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. But the RFQ process, we can help you guys with that too, and I'm sure you've got legal counsel that can too. But the point being, you get somebody who's qualified to do this, and then you don't have to go to bid just to get site drawings. So you get that part underway, then we can, we can all look at these things and we can do a scoring system to get, get several firms in here to come up with a system where you look at a firm and you see what they offer, what are they willing to do for Carter County? Have they done design build with transfer stations? What's their experience with solid waste? What's their experience with class 3 landfills? When you get down to that level, there's not that many of them in the state that know solid waste. You can get an engineer that works with the county on various things, but that's not necessarily who you want to do landfill construction or transfer station construction. So that would be, I guess, my recommendation. I would take any questions you have, but to focus on a short-term transfer station fix and a longer-term class 3 fix.
When you say longer term, I've been on this committee, and then I was off this committee, and now back on this committee. And when I was on it the first time, our limit was 4 or 5 years, 5 to 7 years going to be closed. Well, this is 5 years later, So, I mean, we're pushing, and I've been saying this for quite a while, we're pushing here. We can't push this ball down the road much further because we don't have time.
Well, the class 3, you don't want to, you're right, with the class, if your model absolutely requires the class 3, you're right. I guess what I would want to know and, from the numbers is what happens if you don't have a class 3. That, if that 7,000 tons of waste goes to EcoSafe, do you lose, what is your operation cost to handle that 7,000 tons? You're right. If you wanted that to maintain an operation, we need to have those engineers next month or have that RFQ next month and get it going. Because 3 to 5 years, and the state's backdropped, they're behind and they're not going to speed it up for you.
On your last page, scenario, construct new transfer station, pay tipping fees and all that stuff, is that just, you got $57 a ton. Is that what, basically you're just breaking it down, sitting here saying that's what we would need just to pay for the transfer station?
Right, we're kind of saying if you financed it over 20 years, you could do it at $57 a ton. In 2000 and I think it was $16. So, I don't know what you're paying right now. What are you guys charging?
52 a ton now.
Okay, so we've already changed that. So this was older material, I guess. So I was just going, I don't know where I was going from with this. So
when I was looking at the top, you got 4083 and sitting there going, we passed that. Going broke.
Right, and I'm thinking one of this has got a salary of $30,000 too for director.
So one of them was 2014.
So
That's
So 57, you're doing 52 right now, you're probably, yeah, I'm doing one for a very similar, we're in the numbers, like heavy duty in the numbers, and we're looking at all the equipment costs we have to, to buy new front end loaders, all these things, and we're looking at $65 to run a transfer station, not 57.
Hang us on.
It's all money, right? Well, nobody wants to hear it, but. Yeah.
We don't have to wear pistols.
Yeah, Ms. Carter, I didn't.
Well, I think the first question the community needs to decide on, if we want to keep the demolition site. We don't have to have a demolition site. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's
not necessary. But I think that's the first thing we need to decide. Are we going to offer this to the public, or are we going to keep the demolition site?
Have you been up there lately to see that demolition site? It's kind of crowded,
Oh, I didn't say it wasn't. I just said that's the first thing we need to decide if we're going to keep it for the public. And if we decide we're going to keep it for the public, then we need to look at some options.
My fear is that if we don't keep it, our county will be trashy looking.
Exactly.
That's my fear.
Mine too, Junior.
Because as you all know, Ross and I do some work with Keep Carter County Beautiful, and we could stay busy every Saturday if we were able, cleaning up places where people have dumped things like furniture.
Well, I see this week, one day, not a week, but one day, Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, at Floyd Story, there was a mattress beside the road that right on up, actually right in front of Austin James' office buildings up there, another mattress. This is it. One day I went down, the mattress beside the road, now come back up, there's one on the other side. I'm not kidding.
And we have the demolition, and we still get it.
That's right.
I mean, but I'm just saying, that's the first decision we need to make. And if we're making that decision, then we need to move on with the next part.
And they say, well, they don't know what blows out of their truck. If a piece of paper blows out of the back of my truck, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna see it. And you got a queen size mattress bouncing up the highway.
I stopped 3 times on the way to recycling today to make sure my stuff wasn't blowing out of the truck. So I understand what you're saying. Okay, so what I'm hearing is, yeah, you want to keep the demolition site, or you want to keep that option for the public. So I guess here's my next statement.
I'm for keeping.
How much is it costing, Benny, right now? How much is it costing us to run the demolition site with all the old stuff that we've got? What is the next year going to look like with all the equipment up there?
The next year is probably going to look like the track hoe is the track loader is starting to cost us quite a bit of money to fix parts, stuff that's breaking on it. It's got over 14,000 hours on it. They say the average for those machines is about 10,000 hours in good conditions. When I say good conditions, that's dirt. This definitely runs in bad stuff. You're constantly having to cut wires out around the drives and stuff like that. So it's just, a new loader is probably $300,000.
That's the first $300,000. What else is up there that we have to?
We've got a track hoe. It's in bad shape. It needs undercarriage, and to be honest with you, probably a motor. I don't have a clue how many hours on it. It was there when I came. I think they bought it brand new when they actually built the Class 1 landfill.
What year was that? 1960.
So that is one of the machines we use up there to dig dirt to cover with. The compactor I actually bought it used, probably a year after I started at the landfill, because the other one blowed up. And, the hours on the compactor, I couldn't tell you what it is now because the hour meter don't work, but we've used it for 10 years religiously every day. So it's eventually, I mean, within a short time, I'm sure
So
something.
that's three major pieces of equipment. Anything else?
The dump truck, that's what we use in demolition is a dump truck.
So that's four major pieces of equipment if we keep the demolition site going as it is right now. And that's just ignoring the fact that we don't even know where we're going with it because we don't have any property.
It'll cost us $1 million in equipment.
But here, so then, okay, we're going to keep it open. It's going to cost us that much to keep it going. We're going to have to replace all this old equipment. What would be the cost effectiveness of saying we're going to have it dormant? We need it for emergencies. And we put all that money that's going to have to come from somewhere in the next 2-3 years, just to keep it going, into putting a bigger, better transfer station. And yeah, we're offering it to the public, but we're hauling it somewhere.
You're going to have money to put into the transfer station, but either way we look at this transfer station, I don't see that we can shut part of it down to try to repair what's broke.
Oh, what?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Because the state won't let us, they don't want us dumping outside. We're outside right now because we ain't got no drivers. But the state don't want us dumping outside because of the runoff. So
we're going to have to build a transfer station.
an option somewhere or another in order to fix it, to even start to work on the transfer station.
So why don't we just build it big enough to have the demolition transfer station? And forget having to worry about all that equipment and doing the landfill. We don't have to close it. We can make it dormant. We can use it in case of emergencies. So we won't have that cost, the cost of closing it. But we would still offer demolition service to our people. It's just not going to be up there where all this equipment's going to have to be replaced and worked on and everything else.
If we do the transfer, we have to buy more trucks, more trailers, and hard drive.
You will have to have another driver.
You have to have a driver, another truck too.
But you won't have an operator up there on the hill pushing stuff.
Yeah, that's.
So you can take that guy, make that.
There's one thing, we can't operate with the amount of money that it's bringing in, and that's for sure, because inflation, and I don't want to get off the subject here, but it's like the school. A year ago, they figured $18 million. The day they opened the bid, it's knocking the bottom out of 30 million. I mean, the day of $50 a ton is gone. I mean, it's just, and I know people ain't gonna like that, but we cannot maintain, if it's costing us 60 to get rid of it and us charging 50 just to, so we're open. I mean, at some point, we got to look at cost of, are we gonna break this down over 10 years? And then equipment will have to buy it again, or we gonna break it down over 7 years or 5 years or 20 years? I mean, we all know he's had junk for years. And just in the last few years, have we really put anything new in it to make it work? And that's why this year, for the last 2 years, he's been in the black. But we've got to invest in it to keep it going.
Took 2 fires to get us where we are today. Gary?
Yes, sir. Okay, this is a crazy question, but a lot of agencies, can you lease equipment you own? Does that include stuff like the backhoes or backhoes?
They'll lease you, I think the big landfill over there actually leases their equipment through Caterpillar. You can do that, I think.
Well, how would that compare to bodies? When you lease, do they maintain your equipment for you when you lease one?
Yes.
That's a big cost.
It is a big cost.
Well, I just wondered about, I didn't know if that would include heavy machinery like you're talking about.
I think certain heavy heavy piece of equipment, it does.
Well, would you, or could you, or even would you want to get a cost on all the equipment that you needed? How much it would cost per year to lease for a 3-4 year contract? Or how- what do you think?
Well, yeah, but then we still have to have more land.
Well, I'm just trying to get past the equipment right now.
Yeah, but you don't need the equipment if you don't have the land to put it, to use it on.
Can I ask a question? In your opinion, and no matter which way we go, we've got to fix the transfer station or build a new one up there or something, no matter which way we go. That's first priority, because if we keep the land, then great. We can still use it to transfer the trash out. If we don't get the land, we're just gonna have to build it big enough to transfer the trash out. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing now is getting something going. If everybody agrees, so let's get the transfer worked out, then we'll figure out a land issue. Is that what you're?
That would be my opinion on it. And it also it gets you in the door with, the vendors that you need to work with there in terms of people who know solid waste, who know equipment. And there are lease options out there, of course, but your floor and the way that is too small of a transfer station for what you're doing. It absolutely is too small.
40-some years old.
Yeah, it is. And that's past the shelf life of a transfer station. So you solve a lot there in terms of your efficiency. You may find that $7,000 of demolition goes away a lot easier when you just pack it and ship it, you know. That could be a temporary fix until you decide how to go forward. Now, I hate for you to miss a window on the Class 3 if you think Carter County will never be able to fund a Class 3 again if it's not at this point in time. That's the downside of doing it this way. So, you know, we need to, probably the best approach is to have a phased in, you know, capital plan. You know, and the part one of the plan is let's get the transfer station going. And let's use the demolition landfill very conservatively until, you know, we get a plan for that, or we get the transfer station finished, you know, and that's a 2-year process at this point.
And you being up there, do you think we build a transfer station, a new one there? Is that what you're recommending, or?
It would be because of the fact that you have the Class 3 landfill there, you have your operations there, you have scales there already. You might have to scrape it and start with a new building, you know, to get the grade right, and get enough into that.
All that one's running.
Yeah, or, you know, let's see if we can work with the state to just fill trailers, you know, or you know, one of the, some alternative methodology while it's being constructed, you know.
You've done this enough. Do you have a list of people that's interested to help us make this go forward?
Well, that's not how we can do it, because we're state folks too. So we would have to put out what is, you know, the request for qualifications. And there are people in your area, and we can go through the engineering. They have a membership list for everyone statewide, and tell them, you know, we basically write it up like that second document. This one was for Pickett County's little bitty 5,000 county. And I wrote this one for come talk to us. Let's see what your qualifications are, and let's find somebody who can help us get this going. So I can do this. Your attorney can probably do this. That's always what. That's fine. Or you can look over it after the fact. However, or your finance people sometimes want to say in these RFQs, but we don't necessarily want an engineer that just does civil engineering or gas monitoring or things like that. You really want someone who knows design and construction. So that's like we would do a scorecard, and we would, you know, look for someone who has those particular qualifications.
Gary, I'd like to make a motion that we set forth the plan to get an engineer up here to begin work on the transfer station. And I'm gonna say make the transfer station big enough that if we decide to use it as a demo transfer, it's gonna be big enough.
Second that,
We have a motion by Ms. Culler and a second by Mr. Profit.
yeah. Just out of curiosity, Yeah, I'm full of credits, all right.
That's good.
We're gonna hire an engineer, blah, 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 do all this stuff. Why couldn't we get it done for nothing by the Army Corps of Engineers?
Well,
Who is that now?
you might, now, a lot of times there are in-house sorts of things that happen. And back in the day, TVA used to build these things for folks. I mean, now I see some of them and I think, where did they come up with that design? You know, because it was in the 50s and it doesn't work in 2020. But the engineer would give us the site plan. That's it. They don't get to then build it just because they gave us a site plan. We still have to say, which parts of this are we gonna bid out? And then which parts can we do in-house? So that, you know, we could look at what they do from a site plan and say, well, we can do this.
That's like $50 or $60 anyway, wouldn't
It might save more. I mean, we've had work projects where the road superintendents have helped on some construction. I wouldn't ask him anytime soon. But
Yeah.
I guess that ship sailed.
He's the only one
We got
running.
an engineering firm to run some RFQ. So Ms. Kohler,
Yes.
yes, Ms. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Holden,
Yes.
Mr. Prophet,
Yes.
Mr. Blevins,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
I'm a yes also. Now, I guess you will help us try to get something,
I definitely will. I'll start working on
because
it.
we are running out of time.
You're right. Well, I'll be with you.
Finally get this figured out.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna leave my cards here too. If anybody just has a, wait something, no line, has a burning solid waste.
But you want us to wait till 9 o'clock to call you?
It's all good.
All right, director's report, Amy.
No, it's not. We'll go over a couple of things here with the tow motor we had ordered back in October. You first told me it'd be here in March. Now they're telling me it won't be here in October again. Yeah. So, I'm gonna call around tomorrow and see if somebody's got a new one on their floor. Give us a bid. Something.
I hate to interrupt you, but there's another thing, you know, if you go to buy a new track loader or whatever, who knows how long we're at to wait. So, you know, look at what we're going through, what we ordered.
I couldn't believe it when she told me October. You know, cause I just called her in February, she said it'd be here in March. But that's, I'm gonna work on that tomorrow, being trustees to hang siding, so. But, we started putting siding on the building down there to recycle. It's gonna look pretty good, it's to get it closed in, get everything out of the weather, so we'll have our storage areas. So me and the trustees have been doing that, trying to get them. So, other than that, I'm down 3 truck drivers, 1 retired for health and 2 quit. So, we're looking for Class A CDL drivers. If anybody's like, I'm looking for, let me look for 2 Class A's and 1 Class B. I can get by with Class B on one.
You keep driving Class A. I'm sorry.
And I'll go into the report from the landfill, what we took across the scales for the month of April. $126,493.56. And we'll go into the recycle report. We sent 2 loads of plastic to Eastman's, right at 20,000 pounds, 20 tons each, I'm sorry. And that's gonna bring in right around $7,900. Those 2 loads. And we've sent 4 loads of cardboard out to, cardboard recyclers. And that was 122.67 tons for the month of April. I think Mr. Tester may have the amount on that.
No, I haven't got that yet. You tell me
I had it wrong, man. I made a deal.
160 a ton.
Yes.
How much was plastic?
Excuse me,
7,900.
7,900 from Eastman.
Is that because that's all we had, or is that all they wanted to take, or
That's what we had built up at the time.
you had to take more?
Oh, yeah, we're on a rotation now. As Soon as I get a load, I call them, they come and get it.
What do they pay a pound or a ton or whatever?
So if we could get more plastic donated, we would make more money.
Looks like 3.968. I know.
Roughly 4 cents a
Yeah.
pound. Got all you got? That's it.
Well, I got one more thing. We figured.
Cardboard?
Or shoot, what was the card?
Oh, it was 122. Got it right here, what it does, my paper, here we go.
Oh, I got the tonnage. How much was the
Oh,
amount?
hold on just a second, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I didn't put it on there today. We gotta. Where's the calculator?
I just want to calculate it myself.
Here we go. $19,627.
And I will email all this to you all later tonight, report. It's just the first day back and it don't end until Sunday, so he's
27
because of Friday.
Gary, I actually give everybody a copy of everything.
I went down there and looked at the building, they're putting the sides on it. Looks good, except I asked him to turn the tin the other way, and he kind of told me that. It was a running joke of basically where I could go.
What happened was I went to get something from Lowe's, and he come up and met my inmates, and we had about half of it on there. And Gary said, that needs to run the other way. So when I got back up there, they proceeded to tell me, said, hey, somebody come through here in a white truck and said, you need to turn that tin around. So, I told him where that person.
It's really, it's probably saving them some heat and fuel bill down there because now they can fill it up and back the trucks in and not have to be inside the heater.
It'll be nice. Miss Kohler came down today and
Really good.
knew what we was doing. One other thing, and like I say, I try to be honest with everybody, don't want to hide nothing. I went in partnering with a guy on a dumpster rental business. We bought it. We're gonna rent dumpsters out. It will not interfere with the landfill what we rent up there, because we rent big dumpsters at the landfill, the ones we bought are little dumpsters. So I just want to let everybody know that, I ain't hiding nothing from nobody, but it won't compete with the landfill what we do.
I know regular commission meetings coming up. Like you said, he's down 3 drivers. I don't know what we do with this. I mean, right now, it's like me and Mr. Tester was talking earlier, Summer Taylor's running ads.
$2 cards.
How much?
$2.
And they ain't getting nobody. So,
I'll give you a bargain.
I don't know what we do, but I know we was talking about maybe, with the raises with the county of a flat rate, whether it's 1,000, 15 or 2, that's still not gonna be nowhere to compete with anybody. I mean, how do you get them in to get rid of this stuff?
I will say this, when I hired last week, he come in there today and turned the stuff in, said he ain't driving junk.
Well, we've got you some new trucks come through every year.
I know.
It seems like what's working's working themselves to death, and you can't get other people to work.
Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work.
It's a shame.
They won't even make liquor no more.
All right, Commissioner comments.
We can do a comment on that. You want to comment, Mr. Marco?
It looks like it's right at $27,500 for the month of April in recycling. I think that's very well.
7,000?
$7,563. That includes the $7,936 for your plastic.
Exactly, Benny, let me ask you a question. I'm sure everybody's ready to get out of here. Exactly how long has this thing been running? We actually run
July or August, I think is when it started.
So we'll have a full,
We don't have a full year.
I'm saying, I'd like to know the total of one full year coming out of that thing. At that time.
I think as of January, we was what, 100 and something, Mr. Tester? 100 and something in January.
Motion to adjourn.
30.
Motion by Mr. Blue, second by Mr. Crawford.
Oh, let me ask one more time.
Okay.
On that list.
Okay, don't forget to.
Wow.
Hey, Josh, you gonna work the other day?
Huh?
Me too.
I gotta work my
He's
job.
way down there.
You could have it, you can go. The nice outfit. Risky.
67, 60. We're still $15.
Yeah, just get that site plan.
And I don't see the first time. No, I ain't. Well, I've been good. I ain't seen the truck ain't pulled in the driveway yet.
I can't believe he next week. Yeah.
Hey.